church stood in silence, heavy with the weight of anticipation, as the groom's words cut through the air like shards of glass. He was supposed to be promising love, honor, and devotion, yet instead, he leaned into the microphone and twisted the moment into something cruel. His voice, calm but dripping with arrogance, carried across the crowded pews. "And unlike your family, who never achieved anything worth being proud of, I promise to give you a better name, a life free from their failures." The gasps that rippled through the church were sharp and audible. Mothers pulled children closer, friends looked away in shock, and the bride's parents sat frozen in the front pew, their faces paling under the sting of humiliation. Her father's hand trembled, clutching the wooden edge of the pew, while her mother's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. For a moment, the bride, Emily Carter, stood paralyzed in her white gown, her heart hammering inside her chest. This was supposed to be her day, the beginning of forever. But with one cruel insult, he had dragged her family's dignity into the mud. Before I continue, let me pause to ask you something important. If you believe in kindness, dignity, and the power of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, comment, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to our channel, Hopeful Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful, inspiring stories that touch hearts around the world. Emily had always known that Ryan, the man standing before her in a tailored suit, had an ego that sometimes got the better of him. He was charming, successful, and well-spoken, but behind closed doors, his pride had a sharp edge. She believed marriage would soften him, that love would humble him. But as his words echoed across the church, she realized this wasn't just arrogance. It was a deep disrespect not only toward her, but toward the people who had raised her, sacrificed for her, and stood by her through everything. Her family wasn't wealthy. They weren't celebrated or glamorous. Her father, John Carter, had worked in a small auto repair shop in Charleston, South Carolina, for 30 years, his hands calloused, his back bent from labor. Her mother, Linda, had worked 2 part-time jobs to help pay for Emily's college. They had faced foreclosure once, barely keeping their modest home, and Emily had grown up in secondhand clothes. But what they lacked in wealth, they made up for in love, sacrifice, and integrity. Now, standing in that church filled with polished oak and stained glass light, Emily felt their sacrifices mocked. The audience sat in stunned silence, waiting for her reply. Her throat felt tight, her palms clammy, but deep inside her, something broke open. She could not stay quiet. She lifted her eyes, steady now, her voice calm but piercing as she began her vows. "Ryan," she said, holding the microphone, "you're right about one thing. My family doesn't have riches or grand titles. They don't own companies and they don't mingle with politicians. But what they do have is honor, humility, and love. Things money can't buy and success can't fake. My father's hands may be rough from years of repairing engines, but those hands held me steady when I was a little girl learning to walk. My mother's feet may be tired from standing long hours in diner kitchens, but those feet ran to me every time I cried in the night. They gave me everything they could, even when they had nothing left for themselves. So if that is failure, then I am proud to be the daughter of such failures." The church stirred, a wave of emotion rippling across the audience. Her parents clutched each other, tears streaming freely now. Emily wasn't finished. "Ryan," she continued, her voice firm yet trembling with emotion, "I thought marriage was about lifting each other up, not tearing down the people we come from. If you cannot respect the very people who made me who I am, then you cannot truly love me. Love without respect is hollow, and I will not build my life on something hollow." There was a long, charged silence. Then suddenly, from the back of the church, a single pair of hands began to clap. The sound echoed, startling in its bravery, until it spread, row after row, rising into thunderous applause. The congregation, moved by Emily's courage and dignity, rose to their feet. The sound of approval filled the church like a flood of hope, drowning out Ryan's arrogance. Ryan's face hardened, his pride shattered in front of everyone. He tried to mask it with a smile, but the church no longer saw charm, they saw cruelty. Emily's voice had exposed what lay beneath the polished suit and practiced grin. He reached for her hand, but she stepped back, holding her head high. In that moment, Emily made the hardest choice of her life. She turned to the minister and whispered softly but firmly, "There will be no wedding today." The applause grew louder, some people even crying as they watched her walk down the aisle. Not as a bride joining her husband, but as a daughter standing with pride for the family that had given her everything. Her father stood as she approached, his arms wide, his embrace strong and trembling. Her mother kissed her forehead, whispering, "That's our girl." The wedding ended in shock and whispers, but Emily left with something more precious than a ring, her dignity, her family's honor, and a newfound strength she hadn't realized lived within her. The days that followed were not easy. Ryan tried calling, sending gifts, begging for forgiveness, but Emily stayed firm. She realized his apology was less about true regret and more about saving face. The community buzzed with talk of what had happened, and while some pitied her for the ruined wedding, many admired her for her bravery. Emily returned to her parents' modest home for a while, helping her father in the garage and sitting with her mother at the kitchen table. There, surrounded by the smell of motor oil and freshly brewed coffee, she felt more peace than she ever had in Ryan's world of fancy dinners and luxury cars. Months later, Emily found herself volunteering at a local community center. She met people who valued kindness over status, humility over pride. It was there she met Daniel, a high school teacher who spent his evenings tutoring kids who couldn't afford extra help. Unlike Ryan, Daniel didn't dazzle her with wealth or arrogance. Instead, he listened when she spoke, respected her family from the first moment he met them, and saw dignity in the simple things. Their friendship grew slowly, tenderly, until it blossomed into love, the kind built not on appearances, but on respect, compassion, and trust. When Daniel eventually proposed in that same small church, Emily stood once again before her parents and friends. But this time, the air was different, filled not with shock or cruelty, but with joy and warmth. Her vows were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. "I don't need riches or status. I just need a partner who respects where I come from, who honors the people I love, and who builds a life not on pride, but on love." And when she looked into her parents' eyes, she knew she had finally found the kind of love they had taught her to believe in all along. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Hopeful Stories. Your engagement helps us bring more inspiring stories to life, stories that remind us of the strength of love, respect, and courage. Special request. Before you go, drop a comment below telling us what respect and family mean to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Emily's journey reminds us that no amount of wealth or charm can outweigh the power of dignity, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. And when you do, life has a way of leading you to the love and respect you truly deserve.